I've noticed that recently, within the last couple of days, I'm exercising, like having the radio off now when I'm driving.
Mm.
And I noticed that I'm more calm, because I'm not thinking about things. And I noticed that when usually I have the radio on, then my mind is going a million miles because it's like the music. And then I start to think of things that I have to do that I haven't done or I should be doing. And I'm driving. And I noticed that I'm not as stressed when I'm driving because the radio's off. And I was telling my son that I noticed that last night when he went to bed, I noticed that he normally has his phone right next to his bed. Mm-hmm. So usually when I check on him, I'll take the phone away from him and I remove it. Last night I noticed that this morning that he didn't have the phone on his bed. He had it, he like moved it away like on the foot of the bed, like this, he put it like in his counter. And I told him that today. When we were driving, I told him, I said, I noticed that you didn't have the phone, like it was away from you. And I told him, I said, you need to start exercising, doing that more often, and just, put it on silent, which it was on silent. And I said, just move it away from me because then you'll kind of rest a little bit better at nighttime. Because I noticed that he also has trouble sleeping at nighttime. He'll like either stay up really late or get up really early and then go back to bed. So I just, and I think a lot has to do with, your mind is constantly going. And like, for example, because they're kids, they're in high school or like middle school, they have so much pressure in elementary. They have pressure from like, not just like the workload, but I think also, what they feel like they should be doing or, what they need to live up to. What are some of the things also that you recommend, like as a parent, that are listening to the show that they can, relate to their kids to kind of do to help them, kind of channel the energy to like deal with the stress and the pressure of, life itself?
It's very important what you say because for the children and for the family, I work a lot with Dr. Liza Miller. She's a famous psychologist doctor of Columbia University in New York. And I came in Columbia University a few weeks ago to teach with Dr. Liza Miller. Especially because, according to Liza Miller, around 40%, 45% of children, they have ADHD.
Wow.
ADHD, 45%. You know what is ADHD?
Yes.
I am unable to be concentrated to read a book during 2 minutes. I can't do that. This is ADHD. So your question is absolutely wonderful because this is also the responsibility of the parents. We must practice in family. We must share a good energy. So, of course, the cell phone, for example, it's wonderful to have a cell phone. But in the same time, the vibrations all time of the cell phone create an overactivity in the brain. We are activated. So it's wonderful to switch off the phone maybe 1 hour before to go to sleep, to put the cell phone far from us, and to practice a visualization like the mountain, to recycle our emotion, and to share a good energy before to go to sleep. And it's very simple and very efficient. When we do that, we have result immediately.
Okay, so that should be like something that should be done like every night before they go to bed, practice the meditation.
Yes, because when we are a child, for example, 16 years old, like your wonderful child in the studio with us, we are educated at the opposite of the goal. What is the goal? The goal when we have 16. We need to study very well. We need to have a good studies, to have a good career in America. So we need to memorize a lot of informations. We need to synthesize a lot of informations. But the more we are stressed, the less we can study. But the more we are calmer, faster, easier we study because we upgrade our capacities in the brain. Yes. So I think that to be calmer in our daily life could be the first priority that you learn at the school, that we learn at the preschool, that we learn in family. Because if we are stressed, we can't study very well.
Mm-hmm.
Or we need to take pills, amphetamine if we have ADHD, or it is the reason why many children, they take drugs or alcohol. It's too much, a disaster. But if we are calmer, you are an amazing mommy.
Yeah, thank you.
It's wonderful, Elizabeth, for you with your children to say, okay, we don't want to be a zombie. We want to be happy. I want to enjoy you, my child. Mommy, I love you. I want to enjoy my mommy. Life is so short. Who knows? Who knows? So and I want to study better. I want to be less tired. So there is an answer. What can I do? I practice an authentic meditation in the daily stress situation. I say again, it's not the cliche, I go in a center to practice with a candle during 30 minutes, 2 times per week, because when I go back to my family, I am stressed again. Yeah. But, for example, the mountain, it's a wonderful practice that we can do just before to sleep. You can be sitting down with your child and we breathe in, we see a beautiful mountain. We visualize the stability, the eternity of the mountain. And like that, we are more grounded. And after, during the night, during the dream, this is the moment we upgrade the capacity of the brain.
Wow.
You know that. It's during the night. It's not during the day. The highest capacity of the brain is during the night.
Really?
Of course. So, like that, during the night, we print in the dream, we print in the subconsciousness the calm, the peace. And when we wake up the morning, we are more fresh. We have more energy because during the night we go deeper and deeper in the high level of the peace.
Yeah.
So this is the key to practice before to sleep.
It's interesting that you say that, and I'm going to go ahead and practice that with my kids because I've had a couple of incidents, with my son where he's been like completely frustrated. He gets frustrated at like certain things. Like, one of the things was when school just first started, he had to do a project. And the project, he couldn't think of what to do the project on. Everyone else in the class thought of like a topic. And he couldn't think of anything. He was just kind of, he just had like a writer's block. He just didn't know what to do. So the teacher gave him the subject, which was on capitalism. And he was like, okay, I'll just do it on capitalism. And when when it came down to like doing the research itself, because, it's like you have to do like the outline and like you have to turn in little things, pieces at a time. When it came to like do the first research for it, he completely was having, a frustration meltdown because he didn't know like how to go about like finding research, like how to start. Like he was completely frustrated, and when you become frustrated, you kind of just like your mind just blocks, and you can't see or think or do anything. So of course, like my first reaction was like, okay, look, why don't you call your dad? Call your dad since he's a lawyer, and he went to college because I didn't go to college. So I was like, let's call your dad. I go call your dad, and then maybe he could have some kind of advice on to help you when you're stuck, how to go about it. To make a long story short, that was like the worst advice ever that I gave him. Because his dad said, oh yeah, go to the college library. And I was like, excuse me, but I'm like, that is not, I'm like, your son is calling you for help. And your first thing said was like, oh, what's the nearest college? It's like, I suggest you go to that college library right now. And I was like, I'm like, so then when he was having that conversation with his dad, and his dad told him that, I could see his frustration growing more because it just kind of like he hit a wall, and he went to his father to give him some kind of guidance, and instead it just made it worse. So during that time, I was like standing right in front of my son, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I know I didn't go to school, but I was like, screw it. Like, this is just simple for me. I'm like, let me just look at Google. So I immediately started Googling like articles on capitalism. And, there was like a lot of articles from the New York Times, what's the other one? I can't think of the other place. And there was like books that were just recently written. So then I went quickly. So during this conversation, I'm listening to the conversation. I was like, okay, this is not going anywhere. So at the same time, I'm doing my own research, and I'm going, on these, like on these articles, and I'm reading, kind of like skimming through to see if it's a good article or not article. And I found a few articles that had good information on capitalism. So as soon as he got off the phone, I was like, look, here's this. So I gave him those articles. He kind of looked over a little bit, but he had to take a moment. He had to take a moment to just sort of regroup, from being frustrated. And I was kind of walking him through it and just said, look, we need to practice, being calm. You need to just step back, breathe. And you need to just, breathe and just kind of let it go, because you're frustrated right now. So let's just take a pause. And I told him, I said, don't get more frustrated thinking that you cannot do this, because you're going to set yourself up not to be able to do it, because you're telling your mind that. And so when I looked at those articles, and, we found some books, we went to the nearest library, and, we got the books, and it turned out that we checked out I think it was 6 books. And out of the 6 books we checked out, because I told him, I said, look, let's check them all out that the library offered that they had, since they didn't have the ones that we needed. They had some other ones. And I said, let's just go get those books. And when you're at home, and you're calm, you can kind of look through it and you'll know which book was right for it. And he ended up finding one of those books and some of the articles where all of a sudden, it started kind of coming together, and that's when I told him, I said, we have to practice being more calm. And then again, on Monday, Monday was his first, soccer game for high school. He's playing varsity soccer. And, it's the same thing happened again, where over the weekend, he was out of town, and he wasn't coming home until Sunday evening. So he started stressing, because he's like, I need my goggles. I have to go order my goggles, for soccer, because he wears glasses. And so then he was getting frustrated, but I was like, look, let's try to figure this out. So while he was I had him on the phone, I was running around like a chicken with, my head cut off, going to different, different eye places that were open, and sending him pictures of goggles that they had. You know what I mean? And then we finally saw one of them that he was like, okay, I think that works, But so then, and I told him, I said, look, you need to breathe. Stop getting frustrated, because I'm helping you, figure this out. It's not like I'm leaving you and telling you, well, then you do it. You have to figure it out. I told him, I said, I'm walking you through it. So together, we could work. We could work it out. Don't get frustrated, because, I'm doing something to help you. You just need to also, not be frustrated. So then we ended up so then on Monday, I checked him out early, so then we can go to this one place, and then he ended up finding a pair that he liked, and, we ordered and everything. And that's when I told him, I said, do you see, at the end of the day, it all works out. You just got to practice to be more calm. So I'm glad that we were talking about the exercises that we can do to kind of help him. So whenever he feels like he's getting frustrated.
Because in meditation for daily stress, we combine the breath exercise with a visualization. It helps to be more concentrated. And we know the power of the visualization in the brain. Now, it's a point very important. We are that we think. We are that we see. We are that we say. We are that we eat. We are that we pray. When we create a positive mental picture, we give, by the neurotransmitter in the brain, more serotonin to the body, the hormone of the well-being. So in meditation for daily stress, in my book, I develop different visualization according different situation. But one of the main practice that we teach all time, because I teach for prisoners who have a lot of PTSD, I teach for children who have ADHD, I teach for huge celebrities, for homeless, for manager at Google, for many sort of people. What we do one of the main practice, it's to be like a mountain. It's to visualize a mountain, because the mountain is a symbol of the stability.